Anyway, this is China, but it reminds me a lot of America in the 50s. This is an amazing email. So you still have the vast remnant atmosphere of old China with dirty streets and people with 3 teeth wearing tattered clothes who sit outside all day playing games. These people still purchase all their winter vegetables in the fall, having endured the bitter taste of starvation in years past. But there is a growing disconnect between the old generation who starved through the Cultural Revolution and the young generations who are familiar with every Friends episode and still mourning the loss of Michael Jackson. It seems that with every new tightening governmental grip in America, there's an equal and opposite loosening over here. China is opening up on all levels, from allowing open borders in the West to the opening up policy of the Hainan policy in Hainan. I don't know what that means. But I live in a busy city with a population of over 5 million. The traffic here is horrific compared with only 6 months ago. Due to the recent surge in auto sales, the city is bustling with shoppers in old-style markets where you can happily feed 4 people for under 15 renminbi. That's about $2, as well as modern shopping malls, which include roller coasters, bowling alleys, and ping-pong centers that make the Mall of America look like the kiddie corner. In an understatement, to say the modern Chinese person loves fashion, they are now spending their savings to upgrade their little apartments with modern decor and technology. I happened to be with a friend of mine this past Wednesday who pointed out the newspaper he was reading had printed the price of gold and showed a precious metals chart encouraging people to buy. This was an article, not an advertisement. The modern shopping malls are littered with jewelry stores selling precious metals, including gold Buddhas, tigers, cats, and just about everything else. And I'm not talking about the fake gold statues you see in the American Chinese restaurants. The little statues range from 5,000 to 30,000 RMBs, and I even saw an 8,000 RMB golden Hello Kitty. I kid you not. These made good gifts last week during the Spring Festival, which is the Chinese New Year. December was a particularly enormous shopping time here, and the sales girls at the mall wore Santa outfits in the same way we celebrate Halloween without actually being pagans. It was the most expensive mall in the city on New Year's Eve, and the mall was so crowded the main doors actually broke. China supplied a Boeing 747 carrying 90 tons of relief is taking off from Beijing to Haiti, and China's working with Latin America to provide further humanitarian aid and reconstruction efforts to Haiti. And I'm guessing the U.S. media did not print this story, and that would conflict with America's worldview of themselves as the planet's only national saving grace. We're a couple of Walmarts and McDonald's in town, but there seems to be at least one KFC on about every 10 blocks. Other than that, the city is made up of what Americans would call mom-and-pop shops. Here they just call them businesses. Many of the shop owners own their shops and live in a room attached to the back of the shop, and every block is filled with these businesses. One of the most interesting things that struck me when I arrived in China was that people were actually building stuff. People here know how to use equipment. Instead of buying a new pair of shoes, I got mine repaired for 35 renminbis and my boots cleaned for 5. Every shopping market and mall, even the big modern ones, all have a sewing center where whatever you buy is immediately tailored for adjustments. There's no waiting 3 days for tailoring. It takes about 10 minutes. At the supermarket, there's an assistant standing in just about every other aisle to assist you with whatever you need. And they're happy to assist. With the exception of many licensed taxi drivers, Chinese workers are generally happy doing their jobs. They do not feel working is below them. They take pride in their achievements and their ability to work as a team to get a job done. On the streets, welders make products out of steel. In the markets, seamstresses make clothes. All my life, this element of the business process has always been an obscure concept to me. Growing up in America, I had learned in school to think of every production center as inhumane sweatshop where people had to, heaven forbid, work. But these are not sweatshops, and these are people don't see their jobs as slave driving. They take pride in their jobs the same way our forefathers did, who bore the last names of Smith, Cook, and Baker. The Chinese make money and they spend money, and it's a natural part of their business protocol to go to a fancy restaurant, drink lots of alcohol, and sing karaoke. Some rather interesting elements of this communist society is that I've never been asked for my ID when I purchase alcohol, neither do the 14-year-old kids. This is markedly different from our freedom-loving America, where I was once denied my right to purchase a bottle of wine for the perfectly logical reason that it was after 2 a.m. I do hate that. I remember your show when you talked about when you were younger, you and your friends would buy TNT and then ride your bicycles with axes on your back. That's a true story. I did talk of that. Well, that's China. Chinese friend of mine recently stated, we invented gunpowder to play with fireworks because it's fun. The Europeans came and took it to blow each other up. Like Joe's kids, I'm learning to speak Mandarin. I have no intention of ever going back to America. Most of the foreigners here are Christian crusaders who not only lie to the Chinese government in order to come here to spread the truth of God, but are completely missing the economic point. They view the Chinese as primitive people who need European civility. I've noticed that the Chinese can be very shrewd in this scenario. When the Chinese sense that a foreigner views them as primitive, the Chinese slyly play into that stereotype, always agreeing publicly and then doing the opposite in private. They tend to negotiate this way as well when they sense someone views them as inferior. They play the country dumb card.
Right, yeah, I'm just a dumb country boy.
Dumb Chinese. I don't know nothing. You want starch or no starch? That is why I can tell you that Google has absolutely no idea what they're getting themselves into by provoking a freedom fight with China. They'll spend millions of dollars doing what would be akin to trying to catch a fly with a pair of chopsticks. You can't do it. If Google wants to fight the fight for freedom, they should begin with their own communist country and use their influence to point to the truthful headlines instead of repeated calls on their homepage for American taxpayer aid to Haiti during our worst depression ever. Like Tom Brady, Google has gotten arrogant just before the final game of their perfect season. The result will be exactly the same. This guy's a great writer. The Chinese know exactly what's going on. Several years ago, I owned a business in America. I took pride in serving my customers. When the economy crashed in 2009, the well ran dry. One of my clients told me he had to fire 100 of his employees and put his remaining 50 on a 33-hour work week, forcing them to take an early vacation. I'm schooled in Austrian economics, Ron Paul, or as I like to call it, economics. I saw it exactly what was happening in America. When I saw Jimmy Rogers moved to Singapore, I knew it was time to leave America. I'm lucky. I got out before the American government ordered the airport scanners to store a 3D biometric image of my naked body in a government database. Lucky for me, these communists consider that an invasion of privacy. When you own a business, there may come a point when there just isn't enough money in the bank to pay our employees. That's called going out of business. It's a huge wake-up call. When you can't pay, you can't pay. Last year, that very scenario happened to every government agency, and yet they are still in business. This is one case where the economic fundamentals tell you what's going on without having to know the facts. An organization that stays in business when it has no money in the bank, simply put, is stealing. America was founded on slavery. The idea that some inferior person should do your work for free, and that foundations upon which our house was built has never faded, but now live in the 21st century, and the slaves of the world who provide America with all the goods are turning inward, and there is no stopping it. I would urge all your listeners to remember that it was only after World War II ended that the world learned of the German concentration camps. Germans didn't know about them while they were happening. What we do know is that there's no money left in our government bank accounts to pay for our jails, hospitals, and senior homes. I wish all of you luck over there in America. And I do not envy you for what is about to unfold in the next year or two as the global elite rob the U.S. Treasury blind. Thanks for all your hard work in getting out the truth. You are truly a blessing to your countrymen, your fellow patriot, Jay. P.S. Have you considered coming to China? There is a gold rush going on over here.
Great article.
Well, come on.
I guess I call it an article, but an email.
It's an email, but the initial J. Thank you for that.